I don't know if this is just me, but whenever I say the title of this movie, I always have to say it in Mark Rylance's voice. We're heading off to Dunkirk every time. So Dunkirk is a new movie directed by Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is a director. He's one of those guys where if I see his name attached, I'm sure a lot of people like this. If I see his name attached to a trailer, even if it's produced by Christopher Nolan, directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Christopher Nolan, then I'm absolutely seeing that movie. I've seen all of his movies since Batman Begins back in 2005. All the movies he's directed anyways, and I really like them all. So the movie Dunkirk, it says it in the title. This movie is about Dunkirk. Now because I'm American, I don't really know a lot about the story of Dunkirk, but basically in World War II, there's a bunch of British soldiers and they're stuck on this coast while the Germans are closing in, and it's an evacuation plan. They even say in the movie that the goal of this mission isn't to win. The goal of this mission is to survive. So they're trying to evacuate all these guys off the beach. And I was interested in this movie because I really like Christopher Nolan and I like history in general. And war movies, especially set during World War II, there's something about them that's just really cool. Starting out with the things that I liked in this movie, the cinematography, it looks great. Christopher Nolan is known for being a very practical filmmaker. I heard at one point when they were filming this movie, he had like 60-something boats out on the water. It's great. This movie has a really good sense of grit to it that I thought really worked for it. And I also really liked Mark Rylance in the movie. So the movie's kind of splintered off into 3 different sections. One of those sections is Mark Rylance. He's on his yacht with a couple of kids and he's basically trying to go in a 1-man or 3-man mission to evacuate as many soldiers as he can. I really liked him and his whole subplot. Mark Rylance is a really good actor. He won an Oscar for Bridge of Spies. Should he have beaten Stallone? I don't know, but I'm not going to hold that against him anymore. Just know that Mark Rylance was really good in this movie. And in true Christopher Nolan fashion, the ending of this movie, like the last couple scenes of this movie, I loved. Christopher Nolan always does that. Even if there's some things in the movie like Interstellar, for example, where I'm like, that doesn't quite make sense, that's kind of weird. The guy's always able to bring it home and he's able to make his movies end on such a good note. The last couple scenes of this movie, awesome. That being said, okay, let's talk about some of the stuff I didn't like. I'm gonna start this out by saying I get it. I get what Christopher Nolan was trying to do with this movie. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this movie, Dunkirk, it's about Dunkirk. That's completely different than if I tell you the Bourne Identity is about the character Jason Bourne or the Lord of the Rings is about Frodo Baggins. Because the main character of Dunkirk is the event itself. It's the event of Dunkirk. What Christopher Nolan is trying to do with this movie is he puts you in the action. He wants you to be there in the waters with the soldiers as they're drowning, as they're clawing for survival. Almost like you're a character in the movie. But the problem for me was that I didn't connect to any of the characters because the characters have like no development in this movie. I don't know that's a complaint about this movie that some people have already said, but it's true. Like I was saying earlier, there's 3 big things that happen in this movie. There's Mark Rylance and his yacht party. Then you have Tom Hardy flying a plane with the rest of the Air Force. And then you have all the people on the beach and in the seas and the boats. The Mark Rylance stuff, I liked. The Tom Hardy stuff, I liked. This is a problem I've always just had with movies when people are in airplanes like Top Gun, Independence Day. When they put those masks on and when the planes are flying, sometimes I can't tell which planes are good, which planes are bad. And I can't always tell who's who in the planes. I could always tell when Tom Hardy was on the screen, but there were some times I couldn't really tell what was going on. So I like the Tom Hardy stuff, not as much as the Mark Rylance stuff. But then whenever it cut back to the stuff on the sea, I didn't care that much, which is a complete bummer for me to say because that's probably like the main point of the movie. Those are where the soldiers are. Those are the people trying to survive. The movie starts out following these 2 kids as they board the boat and them kind of walking around the boat and them trying to survive. So I was kind of following it for a little bit, but after a while I kind of lost track of who was who, again just because the characters didn't have any sort of development. At a point in this movie, Mark Rylance, he picks up Cillian Murphy. Now Cillian Murphy is a soldier and the soldier is shell-shocked. That's interesting enough, but that's all you know about him. There's a couple things that happen with him and you kind of give him a pass because you're like, oh, you're a soldier and you're damaged. And I get it. Nolan's not trying to dramatize any of this. He's trying to make it as realistic as possible. And in war, sometimes terrible things happen. But I still didn't feel that bad for the guy. Like, I felt bad for him, but I don't think I did as much as I should have. I don't remember any of the characters in this movie. The one character I remember is this guy named George. He's this Ty Sheridan looking kid. He's one of the kids on Mark Rylance's boat. I thought him and the other kid who's like this Anthony Michael Hall looking guy, but less nerdy. I thought they were both good. But George is the only character's name I can remember in this movie. I know a couple actors. I know Tom Hardy, Kenneth Branagh, Mark Rylance, but none of the characters in Dunkirk, I'm not gonna remember any of these characters like I remember Desmond Doss from Hacksaw Ridge or Captain John Miller from Saving Private Ryan. So the bummer with Dunkirk is I feel like it's really a masterpiece in some areas like cinematography, tone, tension, but I feel like it completely flops in other areas. And so with that, what Dunkirk really made me think of is what makes me immerse into a movie, what really makes me get into a movie. Now cinematography, tension, all that stuff is really good, but I think for me anyways, character development is huge in a movie for me. That's really what makes me feel like I am with the hero. That's the kind of stuff that makes me feel like I'm crawling through the air ducts with John McClane or I am going through my life as if I've never been born, just like George Bailey. Not really sure why I'm referencing Christmas movies in July, but you guys get my point, right? I gotta know the characters in order to relate to them, in order to be invested in their story. For instance, Rogue One. I know some of the people thought in Rogue One the characters were a little thin, but I felt like I knew enough about Cassian Andor and Jyn Erso and Chirrut Imwe in order to be invested in their story. If we just cut into Rogue One right at the Battle of Scarif, I don't know if I would have felt that. And that's kind of what Dunkirk is. The movie starts when the event starts, but because of that, you feel like you just missed like a half hour of the movie when they set everything up, which is fine. fine and works for some movies, but for me in Dunkirk, it just didn't work. So at the very end of the day, Dunkirk has great cinematography, has good tension, the ending of it is great, but because the characters were so thin, I wasn't invested, I got kind of bored. I feel like this is a movie that should be shown in history classes to people that are learning about Dunkirk. After they learn about the event, then watch this movie when they have the context. I think it'll be a lot better that way. I know for a lot of people, Dunkirk is really hitting a chord with them. People are loving this movie because this movie does have a lot of stuff to love in it, but I'm just saying for myself, I need good characters. This movie didn't have good characters, so this movie really let me down. And so that's Dunkirk. I know a lot of people loved it, so let me know what you thought of Dunkirk down in the comments if you've seen it. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys liked it, you can click subscribe and check out some of my other videos, and I'll catch you guys next time.